Stop. Before you reach for that hairdryer this morning, or before you pull your hair back the way you do every single day without thinking about it, I need you to hear something that the styling industry has never been fully honest with you about. The way you style your hair right now, the routine you have settled into, the tools you reach for every morning, the habits that feel completely automatic by now, may be adding years to your appearance in ways you have never connected back to the styling itself. Not dramatically. Not in a way anyone has pointed out. Just quietly, consistently, one morning at a time. And the number one mistake on this list is something almost every woman over 60 does so regularly that it feels like a non-choice. It feels like the obvious practical answer. But it is one of the most reliably aging things you can do to your face, and once I show you why, you will never look at it the same way again. Stay all the way to the end. The context you build along the way makes the last one make the most sense. In the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through 6 common styling mistakes that are quietly aging the hair and the face of almost every woman over 60 who makes them. And every fix costs nothing. Not a single one requires a new tool, a new product, or a single appointment. These are shifts in how you think about your hair and how you handle it each morning. They work with the hair you have right now. They start working the very first morning you apply them. Let us count down. Mistake number 6. Heat every single day, and this one starts in your hand before your hair has even dried. Mistake number 6 is using heat on your hair every single day. I know what you are thinking. You have always done it. It only takes a few minutes. Your hair looks better with it than without it. All of those things can be true, and this can still be one of the quietest, most consistent sources of hair damage happening in the lives of women over 60 right now. Here is why it matters more at this stage than it did before. Hair after 60 is finer in diameter than it used to be. Not necessarily fewer strands, but each individual strand is physically thinner than it was 20 years ago. Thinner strands have a much shallower cuticle layer, the outer protective coating of each hair. And heat, particularly daily heat, progressively strips and damages that cuticle layer with every single use. On younger hair with a thick cuticle, this damage is slower and less visible. On fine mature hair, the cuticle damage accumulates quickly. The hair starts to look dull rather than shiny, because the cuticle is what reflects light. It starts to feel rougher than it used to. It breaks more easily. And breakage on fine hair after 60 means visibly less density over time, which is the last thing you want. Here is the part nobody mentions. The damage from daily heat is not just cosmetic. When the cuticle is compromised, the hair shaft loses its ability to hold moisture. Dry hair breaks faster, which means shorter pieces at the surface of the hair. Shorter broken pieces on fine hair look like thinning even when you have not actually lost a single follicle. The fix does not mean giving up heat entirely. It means giving your hair 2 to 3 days per week without any direct heat at all. On those days, try a simple air dry routine. Apply a lightweight leave-in conditioner to damp hair, separate the sections gently with your fingers, and let it dry naturally. You may be surprised how much texture and volume your natural hair produces when it is not being pressed flat by daily heat. When you do use heat, make sure the tool is on the lowest setting that still gets the job done. High heat is not more effective on fine hair, it is simply more damaging. Lower heat takes 1 or 2 minutes longer and causes a fraction of the harm. One more practical note on heat. If you are going to use heat, apply a heat protectant spray first. Not because it neutralizes all damage, nothing does, but because it creates a thin barrier between the heat and the cuticle that slows the rate of damage considerably. A basic heat protectant spray is available at every price point and takes 5 seconds to apply. On fine mature hair it is not optional. It is the one product that earns its place in the routine every time heat is involved. The difference in how your hair looks and feels after 30 days of reducing heat frequency is significant enough that most women who try it never go back to daily heat styling. Your hair will reflect more light. It will feel softer. It will break less. And you will probably spend less time and energy on it every morning, which is a benefit no styling product can match. And if mistake number 6 made you reconsider your morning routine, wait until you hear mistake number 5. Because mistake number 5 involves something you may be using specifically to solve a problem, and it is making that problem worse in a way that almost nobody explains clearly. Mistake number 5. Stop using volumizing spray the wrong way. Let me say something clearly before we go further. Volumizing spray is not the problem. Used correctly, it is one of the genuinely useful tools available to women with fine hair after 60. The problem is how almost every woman I have ever seen use it applies it. And the wrong application method turns what should be a lifting product into something that flattens the hair and coats the scalp with residue that makes the hair look and feel heavier by midday than it did before you styled it. Here is what most women do. They hold the bottle close to the head and spray the product directly at the roots, then blow dry the hair in whatever direction feels natural. What this does is deposit a concentrated film of product right at the base of the hair shaft, directly on the scalp. That film does not add lift. It adds weight. It is the same principle as applying a styling product at the roots that we have discussed before. Fine hair collapses under weight at the root, not because of the product itself, but because of where it lands. Here is what actually works. Hold the volumizing spray at least 12 inches from your head. Mist it into the air above the hair section rather than directly at the scalp. Then tilt your head forward and use your fingers to gently lift that section of hair upward while the product is still wet. The product lands on the mid-length of the strand and on the underside of each section, which is exactly where it needs to be to create lasting root lift. Then dry that section with the blow dryer pointed upward from underneath, while the hair is still being held up and away from the scalp. This technique takes exactly the same amount of time as what you are already doing. It uses exactly the same product. The only difference is the distance of application, the direction of the mist, and the angle of the dryer. And the difference in volume at the crown by the time you finish is noticeable in the mirror before you have even reached for a brush. If you have access to a diffuser attachment for your dryer, this is the moment to use it. A diffuser disperses the airflow gently and widely rather than concentrating it in one blast, which means the hair lifts and dries with much more natural movement and much less root flattening than a direct nozzle produces. You do not need an expensive diffuser. The basic ones that come with many standard dryers work perfectly well. The technique matters more than the tool. One more thing about volumizing products that is worth knowing. If you use a volumizing shampoo, and a volumizing spray, and a volumizing mousse all at once, the combined residue of 3 products is almost always more than fine hair can carry without flattening. Choose one volumizing product per wash day and use it correctly. One product used well outperforms 3 products used poorly every single time. Now, the number 1 mistake is still waiting at the end. But first, mistake number 4 is one that I think of as the kindest mistake on this list, because it comes entirely from a place of loyalty. And there is something worth honoring about that loyalty even as we talk about why it is holding you back. Mistake number 4. The same hairstyle 4 years. Wearing the exact same hairstyle you have worn for years without ever asking whether it is still serving your face. This one is gentle but important. Most women over 60 have a hairstyle they have been wearing in the same basic shape, the same basic length, the same basic parting, for somewhere between 5 and 20 years. It became familiar. It became easy. It became the answer every time someone asked what they wanted done at the salon, and the answer was always the same. And the answer felt right, because at some point it was right. It suited the face at a particular time in life. It worked with the hair density and texture of a particular decade. But here is the truth about faces and hairstyles. Both of them change. The face changes gradually, the cheekbones soften slightly, the jawline softens slightly, the temples may become slightly narrower than they were at 40. And the hair changes in density, in texture, in natural wave pattern, in how it falls. A shape that framed the face beautifully at 45 may be silently working against the face at 63, not because the cut is wrong in principle, but because it was designed for a slightly different face than the one wearing it now. The fix here is not a dramatic reinvention. It is simply a conversation. The next time you sit in a salon chair or in front of your own mirror, ask yourself one honest question. Does this shape lift the face where it has softened, or does it mirror the softening and add to it? A hairstyle that has movement and diagonal lines reads as younger and more alive. A hairstyle that is static, rounded, and symmetrical mirrors the natural softening of the face rather than working against it with structure and contrast. You do not need a new cut. You may need only to adjust the styling, the part, the direction of the blow dry, the angle of the set, to introduce diagonal lines and movement into a shape that has been wearing itself in a static, settled way for too long. Here is a practical exercise worth doing this week. Look at a photograph of yourself from 5 years ago and one from today, both showing your hair in its usual style. Ask yourself honestly whether the shape has changed in any meaningful way between those two photographs. If the answer is no, if the part is in the same place, the length is within an inch of the same, the overall silhouette is essentially unchanged, that is the signal that your hair may have been styled for a version of your face that no longer exists. Not because that version was better. Because the current version deserves a shape that was designed specifically for it. And now we are more than halfway through. The number 1 is still ahead, and it is worth the wait. But mistake number 3 is the one that affects something so fundamental to how the face reads that I am always surprised more women have not heard this before. It involves a space that is literally right next to your face, every single day. And most women over 60 are leaving it completely empty. Mistake number 3. No face framing hair. Stop pulling all your hair away from your face without leaving any softness to frame it. The hair near your face is doing one of the most important jobs in your entire appearance. It is the border between your face and everything else. And that border determines how the face reads, whether it looks open and framed, or exposed and unprotected. When all the hair is pulled back completely from the face, scraped back, or tucked behind the ears, or pinned away from the temples, the face is left without any framing element at all. Every feature is fully exposed. Every line, every shadow, every natural softening is visible without any buffer, without any softness to draw the eye elsewhere. The principle at work here is the same one that governs portrait photography. Photographers know that a face looks most alive and most flattering when there's something at the edges, something soft, something with movement, that creates a natural frame rather than leaving the face floating in open space. Hair near the face serves exactly this function. It softens the jaw. It narrows a wider forehead. It draws the eye toward the center of the face. It provides a context that makes the face look intentional and framed rather than exposed. The fix is simple and takes about 20 seconds. And once you learn to see it, you will notice it everywhere, in photographs of women who look younger than they are, in portraits, in the way certain women walk into a room and immediately look more present than others. The secret is almost always the same. There is something near the face. Something soft. Something with a little movement. Whatever style you wear, allow at least 2 or 3 soft pieces of hair to fall or be placed near the face. Near the temples, near the cheekbones, near the jaw. These pieces do not need to be dramatic. They do not need to be a styled fringe. They just need to be present, soft, light, suggesting movement rather than structure. If you habitually tuck every strand behind your ears, try leaving just one piece near each temple loose instead. If you wear your hair pulled back in a bun, allow just the front pieces to fall forward gently rather than pinning every one of them back. The difference in how the face reads is immediate, and it costs nothing. This works on every face shape and every hair length. Short hair can still have a soft piece near the ear. Medium hair can have a strand that falls near the cheekbone. Even a pixie cut can have a small piece directed gently toward the temple rather than smoothed completely back. The principle applies regardless of the length or the style. The relationship between face framing hair and perceived youth is not subtle. Women who frame their faces with a little hair look rested, warm, and present. Women whose faces are fully exposed by a completely pulled back style often look more severe and more aged than the same face would with a little softness at the edges, even when every other element of the style is identical. Now, one more mistake before the payoff. Mistake number 2 is the one that most women over 60 do not think of as a styling choice at all. It feels like a practical decision. A matter of comfort. Maybe even something they are proud of because it keeps things tidy. And in the moment it is made, it feels like the sensible choice. But it is quietly doing something to the hairline and the temples that adds up in a way that becomes visible over time. Mistake number 2. Pulling hair too tight. Stop pulling your hair back so tightly every single morning. Tight styles feel clean. They feel controlled. They feel like a commitment to looking put together even on a busy morning when there is no time to style the hair in any other way. And many women over 60 have been wearing tight buns, tight braids, or tightly pinned updos for decades, since long before 60, sometimes since their 20s or 30s. The style feels like part of their identity, part of who they are. But here is what tight, repeated pulling does to the hair over time, particularly after 60 when the hair follicles are already producing a finer, more delicate strand. Tension at the root is mechanical stress. Every time the hair is pulled tightly backward or upward, the follicles at the front hairline and temples experience real physical force. On younger hair with robust follicles, this force is absorbed more easily. On mature hair whose follicles are already slightly more fragile due to hormonal and aging changes, sustained tension gradually weakens the follicle. The result, over years, is visible thinning at the hairline, particularly at the temples, which is exactly the area where thinning is most visible and most aging. There is also the face reading problem. A very tight pull on the hair flattens the root completely, removes any volume or movement from the crown, and stretches the skin at the temples backward in a way that can paradoxically make fine lines and sagging more visible rather than less by the tension it creates. The fix is straightforward. If you love wearing your hair up, wear it up. But wear it loosely. A loose low bun pinned with a few gentle pins rather than a tight elastic. A soft twist rather than a taut braid. Allow some movement at the root and some softness at the front before everything is gathered back. You can have a tidy, intentional updo and still leave the hair at the roots free of tension. The difference in how the front hairline looks over months and years is significant. And the difference in how a loose updo versus a tight updo reads on a mature face is immediate. The loose version looks deliberate and soft. The tight version looks severe. And severe is almost never a word that makes a face look younger. And now, we have arrived at number 1. The mistake that every other mistake on this list was building context for. The one that is so common, so automatic, so completely taken for granted, that pointing it out feels almost unfair. Because it is usually made in the name of practicality. It is usually made quickly, in the morning, when there is no time to do anything else. It is usually made by a woman who is trying her best to look put together with the time and energy she has available. And it is still one of the most consistently aging things she can do to her face. Mistake number 1. The tight ponytail and pin style. Mistake number 1 is the tight ponytail and the tightly pinned atters. Not the ponytail itself. Not the atters itself. The tightness. The rigidity. The hard horizontal line across the back of the head. The complete absence of any softness, movement, or face framing element in the entire style. Here is what the tight ponytail, or tightly pinned atters, does to the face. First, it pulls every strand of hair back from the face with maximum tension, leaving the face completely unframed and fully exposed. The temples are stretched. The hairline is tight. Every feature and every shadow sits in full view without a single piece of hair to create contrast or softness. Second, the tight horizontal line of the ponytail or atters itself, sitting perfectly centered at the back of the head, creates a geometric, rigid shape that has none of the diagonal movement or asymmetry that reads as alive and youthful. It is one of the most static, symmetrical shapes that hair can take. And static symmetry on a mature face is one of the defining visual signatures of an aging appearance rather than a vital one. Third, the flattening of the crown that comes with pulling everything tight backward removes all volume from the top of the head, where volume is most visible and most lifting. None of this means you can never wear your hair back. It means the way you wear it back determines everything. The same amount of hair gathered at the back of the head reads completely differently depending on 3 things. How tight the gathering is, how high or low it sits, and whether any softness has been left near the face before everything is gathered. A soft low gathering with a few loose pieces near the temples and cheekbones looks intentional, feminine, and elegant. A tight high ponytail with every strand pulled back looks rushed, severe, and adds years rather than removing them. The difference in time between these two approaches is approximately 30 seconds. The difference in how the face reads is the difference between someone who looks like she made a choice and someone who looks like she ran out of time. So here is the fix. The next time you reach for a tight ponytail or a tightly pinned atters, pause before you start pulling. Take the front pieces first. Let them fall forward near the temples. Then gather the rest loosely rather than tightly. Use a gentle elastic or a soft pin rather than pulling the hair as taut as it will go. Leave a little movement at the crown rather than flattening it. The result is a gathered style that still keeps the hair out of your face, still looks tidy and intentional, and looks 10 years younger than the tight version on the same face. And it takes the same amount of time. Before we close, here is what all 6 of these mistakes have in common. Every single one is a habit that became automatic. Daily heat, wrong spray technique, the same style repeated, no face framing hair, tight gathering, tight ponytail, none of these were chosen deliberately as aging choices. They crept in quietly, one morning at a time, because they were efficient or familiar or comfortable. And that is exactly how styling mistakes work. They do not announce themselves. They do not show up in the mirror with a label. They just become the way things are, quietly, one morning at a time, until someone points out that they do not have to be. And the moment you see them, you cannot unsee them. Which is exactly why this video exists. Everything on this list is reversible. Tonight. Tomorrow morning. Without spending anything. The hair you have right now, styled with the 6 adjustments I have described today, will look noticeably different from the hair you have been showing the world for the past several years. Not because your hair has changed. Because you have. So pick one thing from this list. Not all 6. Just one. The one that felt most familiar as I described it, the one where something shifted and you thought, that is me, I do that every morning. Take that one and try the alternative tomorrow. Come back and tell me in the comments which one you chose and what happened when you tried it. Tell me if someone noticed something different. Tell me if you noticed something different. I read every comment that comes in and I truly mean it. If today helped you at all, share it with one woman you know who could use it. She will understand exactly why you sent it to her. And if you are not yet subscribed, now is the moment. Because next week, I am going over the specific hairstyle shapes that quietly subtract years from the face of every woman over 60 who wears them, and the shapes that genuinely add those years right back. Knowing the difference takes less than 3 minutes. You will not want to miss that one. You are not out of options. You are not running out of time or running out of hair. You are simply at the point where the right information matters more than any product. And today you got it. These 6 adjustments cost nothing at all. They require nothing new. They need only your willingness to do one thing slightly differently than you have been doing it. And slightly differently, done consistently, is the most powerful styling tool that exists. Tell me below, which of these 6 styling mistakes did you recognize most in yourself today?